With your defensive line, with John and Duran, I mean, they've been so impactful the last couple of years. What are you seeing from them this year, and are they making those kind of impact plays?
They have been for the most part. They've done the things that we've needed them to do up front. They've held the line. I mean, we've done a nice job keeping things inside. Their interior push has been pretty good, and they've been fairly consistent. They really have. And
then with Sam, I know the growth isn't always linear, and there's a lot of things. But what are some of the things lately that have been really showing up when you're rewatching it?
Well, one of the things you see is his recognition of what's happening. He's his pre-snap read, and then his post-snap read. They're one of those things where you get out, you see something, and you can make those adjustments at the line. But when you take the snap and then having to react to what you see, that's been really good. And you see him seeing the pressures better. You see him see the rotation, the coverage is better, and which allows him to go through his progression quicker or get to where he needs to, so he can release the ball in a timely fashion. You see him feel the pressure and drift in the pocket sometimes. There was a couple instances, if you go back and look at the New England game, there was one play in particular where he drifts back just enough to give himself time to throw that one to Jahan. So those are the little detailed things of what he has to do that you really see the growth and improvement on.
With Brian Robinson, we've obviously seen his pass catching ability throughout the year. Is that something that maybe teams throughout the drafting process kind of slept on a little bit for whatever reason? It was one of the things that in talking with Randy, when we were scouting the running backs, and that was one of the things that he said. He said, this kid can catch the ball that a lot of people don't realize, Coach. He showed some pretty good hands in his workout. So we were fairly confident in that. And just the way with Brian and AG, the way they played in this last game, and again, especially the last few weeks, you obviously want to get the ball to all the guys you can, but how important has it been to have those two guys contribute in that dual way?
It's very important because, one of the things that we wanted to make sure that in talking with EB back in February, it was about distributing the ball and getting the ball to the players in space, giving them an opportunity to be explosive and dynamic. And that was one of the things, again, that, I told you guys earlier, probably last February, that I was really thoughtful about and seeing, and listening and looking for ways to get the ball to these guys as quickly as possible.
Ron, more on Sam. He's obviously growing. He's improving. But what's the next step of his progression?
I think just as he continues to go through it, really is I think just the continued consistency now. And that's probably the biggest thing. I mean, he's shown that he can handle, the situations that he's been in. He's learned from previous situations. He's learned from his own mistakes. He self-corrects a lot of times. He knows almost instantly the things that he missed. There was one play that he came back to the sidelines after it, and said, I had the other throw, didn't I? Is this what happened? And Tavita told him, yep, that's exactly it. And he says, okay, so there's that positive growth right there. But I think now it's just a consistent play.
This is 11 straight weeks of football for this team. Going back to training camp practices, it's a lot of time, almost like the hamster wheel effect. As coaches, how do you kind of challenge your team to kind of break out of that monotony? Because sometimes it can get monotonous week after week.
No, it does, but, you try to mix it up. You try to do some things differently. One thing that we did this year that's differently is once we got to the midpoint season this year, our Wednesdays, we do a modified, I don't want to call it a walkthrough because we're still at a good pace, but we're not doing it with pads on. We've really just gone to an up-tempo installation period is what we've done on Wednesdays, and it's more about getting the mental aspects of the game down. It's more about seeing what looks we're going to get from the defense, and then trying to marry it to what we want to do in terms of attacking them. That's the best way to put it, I guess.
You mentioned the mental part of the game. Kind of what's the mindset of your team going into this weekend? Obviously, the Giants have lost a couple of games by big margins, but they beat you guys up there. Kind of what is the mindset going into this game?
Well, just the mindset I talked about today more than anything else is about the opportunity that's in front of us. It's a chance to get ourselves on track and keep going. And I think it's really about focusing and preparing and doing the things that we need to give us the best opportunity to win.
Coach Dexter Lawrence tied for the lead this season against you guys in pressures on the quarterback. Obviously, there's been some changes up front, and also Sam's development? How confident are you that that number can reduce this weekend?
Well, I just feel good about, where we've grown to as far as our offense is concerned. Everything from, the play calling, because you see EB get into those rhythms and things happen very quickly, and he's gotten more and more comfortable with the guys on the field, then the guys on the field executing. I think how stout we are up front is obviously is a little bit different from earlier in the year. And then, the play of a lot of the guys. I mean, in fact, EB and I were talking about this during one of the periods, is that the guys are playing faster. They're playing with more confidence, so you see that they do feel good about what we're doing and they have a good grasp of it.
Hey, Ron, there's been so much national praise of Sam recently. He was speaking earlier, said that he's not thinking about that much and really he's just focused on winning and helping the team. What do you think that says about him, that even with all this success and praise that's coming his way, that he's still focused on that? And how might that impact the rest of the team?
Well, I think when his teammates see that the only thing that's important to him is winning, I think that really means a lot to them. I think that they're starting to feel him and his presence, in the locker room, on the practice field, in the game field. I think that's big. I really do. And it does say a lot about who he is as a young man, because this game is really a team game, and if it's if you're really truly all about the team, that's the first thing that comes up. You give praise to the other guys first and foremost.
Thank you.
Since you've been here, the Giants have gotten the better of you guys a few times. I know you want to win them all, you prepare to win them all, but when you get ready for a game like this, is that in the back of your mind? Like, we kind of owe these guys one?
No, we do kind of owe these guys one, but that's not why you play. You play to win the game. You play, to do things the right way, and you keep the focus on playing the game. That, to me, is what's more important. I mean, every one of these games we play are all important, whether they're divisional, whether they're conference, or they're out of conference. They're all important, and you prepare that way, you focus that way, and you go out to play to win.
I know we've talked about explosive plays a lot. How does that manifest itself for the defense on a day-to-day in practice, the work of cutting those down and eliminating those?
Well, I think the biggest thing more than anything else is the constant emphasis on doing your job and doing the things that you need to do. Whether you're a defensive back, it's staying up over the top to keep it in front of you. Whether you're up front, is being gap disciplined and controlling the point of attack.
Have you been surprised by kind of the consistent explosive plays?
Well, I've been disappointed. I mean, it happens, and it's unfortunate, that we've given up the amount that we have.
And then going back to Sam for a second, he didn't want to hear about the stats. Some of the other guys in the locker room didn't want to hear about the stats. Do you ever have to take a second to, let them enjoy a little, even despite the losses?
You do, because they've earned that. They've earned that recognition. That's one of the things that I think that's really been kind of cool, is that, we're talking more about this football team and these players than we are anything else now. And that, to me, is important, because there's a lot of guys in that locker room that deserve recognition. That's what I'm really fired up about. I think that's a cool thing. What it tells you about them is that, if they're not caught up in it, it's because they understand that this is a team game, and unless the team's winning, they really don't want to focus on those things. They want to focus on helping us win football games. That's what's important, and I think I appreciate that from our guys.
What do you make of the Giants' offense, considering all the changes they've gone through, and particularly with the new quarterback?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, they're all professionals. They're going to come out and they're going to play as hard as they can and do everything they can to win. And we're going to try and counter all that by coming out and playing the best we can and try to win. I mean, to sit here and draw anything other than that, I think, is unfair to professional athletes.
And the last 5 or so weeks, it seems like teams have been challenging Benjamin a little bit more. What have you seen from him, and how have you seen him respond?
Well, I think part of it is we've been putting him in that position, and I think, for the most part, he's stepped up. I mean, he's been physical. He's working hard. He's doing a lot of things for us. Not only does he play the outside corner position, but we'll put him inside and we'll have him play the nickel spot. And in certain situations, we'll have him match up. And he's handled it very, very well. And again, he's a guy that, we talk about growth and development. This being his third season, this is where you start to really see it. And you do. You see a lot of positive play from him. And hopefully it'll continue, and he'll continue to grow.
Terry mentioned this about one of the things that really impressed him the most about Sam is how he'll get a coaching point 1 week and immediately take it into that game. Have you seen instances of this?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and it goes from everywhere. From when you in practice, I get the great fortune of standing behind Eric, and his voice carries very, very distinctly. So whenever there's a correction or whenever there's an addition or whenever there's a point to be made, he'll give it to him, and then I'll sit back and I'll watch it, and I'll see it happen in practice, and then I'll see it on the game, and you go, wow. I mean, it's like everything from when he sits and says, hey, on this particular throw, take your eyes over here so you can draw the defender and then come right back to the receiver. And then you'll see it. You'll see where his eyes will be over here, and then he comes right back down there, and you'll see the defender start to push, and then he just brings it right back to where it needs to go. I mean, those are little detail things that he's been really good with, and there's been a lot of them because you watch, Eric is constantly coaching. EB does a heck of a job because he's constantly coaching the young man and the players out there for the matter. And it's been really cool to watch his growth and their growth inside the offense.
And he's had like a couple really big highlight plays, at least in every game, I think. Have there been any throws that have really stuck with you? I mean, the De'Ami Brown one, of course, but if there's been some to Terry, have there been any?
Oh yeah, there's been a lot of throws. I mean, I do agree with you. There's at least a couple a game that you sit there and go, wow. I mean, the one he threw to De'Ami in the New England game, I thought was pretty impressive, throwing it off his back leg, hitting it on stride. I mean, that was pretty good. The one he threw to Terry earlier in the year at home, that was another big one. I mean, there's some things that make you go, wow, this kid does have a legit arm. Defoe, yeah, she asked me the other day about him. But he's coming along pretty well. I mean, again, it was shoulder, and he's been getting his treatments. I actually talked with him the other day about it, and he started saying, it's starting to feel really good. It's coming along, but there is no timeline. I mean, it was substantial injury, didn't require surgery or anything like that, but it's one of those that takes a little bit of time.
All right, thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you guys.